Welcome to All Things Mental,
a podcast that honors the messy, beautiful, nonlinear journey of healing. Because healing isn't about fixing what's broken.
It's about discovering what you need in this moment and learning to trust yourself along the way.
Here, we share stories, resources, and reminders that you're never alone on your path.
So take a breath, lean in, and remember,
you are not broken.
You're just becoming a more beautiful version of your higher self. We're your co-hosts, Michelle
and Leanna,
here to remind you that
you're never alone
on your healing journey.
Welcome back to All Things Mental. This episode is titled All Things Healing Within Our Environment. And it is a near and dear episode to our heart because we talk a lot about on our healing journeys, this podcast, and in our environments that we live in, that we exist in, that we work in, that we have friends in and fun in, like all of the things, we can heal through every part of it. And I think a big quote in terms of what this episode really means to me when I think about this is you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. So a lot of the times you have to leave unhealthy situations, but sometimes that's not always realistic, right? So like if you're still living at home and your parents are the trigger, it's like, what do you do? You know, so like in that situation, without getting too far ahead, because I want to hear from you, Michelle, just in general, like you want to make sure that with your family, like you can do things on your own and work on setting boundaries and like things like that if your environment is toxic. And that's just like one example, but I'd love to hear from you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love what you said about like you can't grow or heal where you like were hurt or are hurt. It's like when you think about like a plant, like if a flower doesn't get sunlight, like if it's a, flower that needs sun, it would not necessarily like be able to like grow and thrive. If you're not taking care of it every day, it's not going to be able to grow and to thrive. So I always look at it that way. I remember I messaged you about this a couple weeks ago because I was going through some things and I was like, I have an idea for an episode. Let's talk about all things environment, because I was at my aunt's house and I had the realization before I got there that her house was the first place where, like in my adult life, where it did not feel toxic and I felt like I could like be myself. Like I had roommates prior to that were absolutely fantastic, but like that was like in the college years and all of that. But for me, like that was like the first place where like I really felt like I could like be myself. And like I remember there were times where like I would apologize for something. She'd be like, why are you apologizing for that? And it like really, really like helped. Like she's my dad's sister, so like she 100% like gets it. Like I will sometimes call her and be like, do you know what your brother did? And like sometimes she'll call me like, do you know what your father did? And like that's the joke that like, he's just somebody that's in both of our lives. But she was like the first environment where I really felt like I could like truly like be myself and heal. And that was actually the environment that I was in when I finally put my foot down and left my situationship.
Wow. That's so beautiful that you can reflect on that, because I think about the first environment that I was in, that I started to really unpack my heart and my anxiety and my depression and things like that were really coming up for me at the time in 2017. After my parents rejected my engagement to my now husband, like that was very soon after that, I moved to Rhode Island, where I lived there for 2 years and I worked there, and I made one of my first best friends, like post grad and everything, like, and she was my maid of honor. Like I got married when we were living in Rhode Island, and my husband, my then fiance, like moved in with me like 6 months before the wedding, and like we had that all situated and everything, and it was beautiful. But like that was where I really dug into like my alone time with myself. Like I was in that situation, from afar, hours and hours away from my family, and they still had this undying grip on me. and it just hurt all the time, like, because we have phone, we have video chats, like there's just ways that we can connect with each other, and it would be like a text message that would come through that would just be so triggering, or like a phone call or a conversation or something, and it would be so hard. But I had to find myself, because for a long time I lived alone. Like after college, I lived by myself for a year and a half before my now husband moved in with me, because he had to take care of his family and stuff like that, his own health at home. Like he needed his doctors and stuff. So I like totally respected that. Like he couldn't just move with me right away. And that's okay, because I think everything, like we say a lot, like everything happens for a reason within reason. Like, and I agree, because in that moment I was able to dig into podcasts and to journaling and books and things like that, like all the tools that have helped me grow. And I'm a forever changed person because of it.
I love that so much for you. For me, I remember when I went to college, I was the first time I experienced independence. And even though like I still like had like my parents paying for my college and my parents giving me like a credit card to like buy groceries and buy this and buy that. So like they still had like a connection and like a, like not necessarily like a hold, but like a, there was, they were helping me out. I remember like I hardly ever called home. And when I did, my dad would pick up and say, "Oh, okay, you're still alive." Because like I was just so independent that like I didn't feel like I needed them. And I like didn't realize how much I needed that independence until I was out and about and on my own. And for me, I didn't really discover podcasts and healing and all of, not necessarily healing, I'll say, because I know I mentioned this before that like there are moments that occurred in my life that were pre-healing journey that were healing. But like I feel like the healing journey really begins when you decide yourself, okay, I'm ready for a major change. And that's when you go on the journey. Because I had a situation when I was living with my roommates where I thought about committing suicide, and I will never forget my guy roommate. He like made us have a sleepover in the living room until he knew I was okay. And then he made me go to therapy because it was like free on campus for students. So like he like took me to my first appointment. He like sat out in the car, waited for me to get out, and then we like went home, and like he's like, "Are you feeling better?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I'm feeling much better." And then I think like a couple of days later, he was like, "Okay, we can go back to sleeping in our room." And like it wasn't even like him trying anything or anything like that. Like he's literally like my brother. But there was that situation. And then I remember when I got into podcasts, I mentioned this before, the first podcast I ever listened to was Mary's Cup of Tea, who I still can't believe we had her on at one point, which is just like, it was a dream guest. But anyways, I remember the first time I ever listened to a podcast was when I was starting self-development. And I like was just going through, like, me and my now husband had just moved in together, and I was like going through some like emotions, and I think we had just gotten into a fight, and I was like kind of like trying to like process, but like I didn't know at the time what unconditional love was. So I was like, I have to figure this out on my own kind of thing. And I listened to an episode that basically the gist of the topic that she discussed was essentially like how to navigate a healthy relationship when you've known nothing but toxic relationships. And it was really helpful and really mind blowing and mind opening for me. And I remember taking notes during that podcast, like pausing and like taking notes here and there. And then me and my husband had a conversation when I was done listening to it, because I had like I was ready. I had processed it and was ready to talk about it. And we had like a really beautiful conversation, and it really helped. But like I said, the environment prior to living with my husband was the first time where I felt like seen and like heard. Like, me and my aunt are like best friends. I used to call her about everything. Now I don't call her as much, but like I do call and check in on her on occasion, and vice versa. But like, I remember when we first moved in together, she and I, like, how you get to know people more when you live with them. Well, we basically had like a really like good like heart to heart and became like really good, like closer friends. And my parents moved down to Florida around the same time. And I remember them suggesting I move back in with them. And I remember saying, there's an idea. But like my parents didn't understand that I was being sarcastic. So like I found that out later on when my aunt called me and was like, hey, so I heard you're moving back in with your parents. I was like, no. I said, and I quote, there's an idea. And she was like, oh, they didn't hear your sarcasm. Like, no, they didn't. And she's like, would you rather live with me? I'm moving to Florida. And I was like, absolutely. Like without skipping a beat. I was like, I would love to live with you. And I lived with her for 5 years.
Wow. That's really nice. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like I remember the last thing my dad said to me before I moved to Rhode Island, like we were packing up the car and we were going to leave like the next day or something. And he was just like, he had like tears in his eyes and he like hugged me and he's like, I hope you loved your life here. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, it's not about that. It's that I have to go, you know? I know, right?
No, that's just so beautiful. And that makes me like teary eyed because I had the opposite reaction from my parents when I moved out. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, I my parents like it's very different in just the way that they both like in the parallel universe. Like I was always closer with my dad when I was younger.
Same.
And now as I've grown older, like I feel like I'm not necessarily becoming closer with my mom because I feel like there's still that boundary always like
Yeah.
that needs to be in place. But like in terms of the healing journey, like you know, when my dad said that to me, like I'll never forget that because I was like, yeah, I mean, I knew I loved my life. It wasn't that. It was just that I was growing in a way that needed to have my own space and my own time away and like I even though I went away for college, like it just wasn't the same because I was always coming
Absolutely.
home.
There's a difference between going away for college and going away for like a career. Like absolutely. Like I I loved my life growing up and I didn't realize at the time that it had its toxic moments till like I was reflecting back on it. But like my dad, I was a daddy's girl. Like I remember being a kid and getting dressed for Halloween. I think it was 1993 or 1994. I wanted to be Ariel and I was Ariel. And my mom was combing my hair and putting it up in like a ponytail to put on like this foam red hair wig. And I guess they had like stopped recording and then went back to recording, but because like I'm crying when they start the recording because like, and my dad's like, daddy's taking pictures of you, mommy's doing your hair, because I was very much so a daddy do girl, like because my mom would, when she combed my hair, wasn't exactly like gentle.
Mm.
And my dad was like, I remember in high school, if my mom ever told me that, oh my God, you look so cute, I was like that teenager that like, I would go like look at my outfit and be like, okay, we gotta change it. But my dad, if he complimented me on my outfit, I was on cloud nine.
Aw, that's so nice. Yeah, it's hard. I I was going through some of my old things, like my old journals and things and books and notebooks and things at my parents' house, like in the past like couple months. And I happened to stumble across these old letters that they used to write to me from like when they would go to parent teacher night. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, right? Like, it was so cute because they were like, "Oh, we love you, like, we're always here for you," or something, and at that point, like, I had to shut it because I was like, "I can't read this," and I'm like, "It's okay to throw these away, like, I don't need to save that, like, I know they love me, like, I don't need to reread that from, like, 2nd grade," but, like, I had to get rid of it because I had this, like, realization in my soul where I was like, how did they love me so much when I was so young? And then when I started to break away and become my own adult and my own person, that then it became this toxic situation for years,
Oh yeah,
for literally
absolutely.
years.
Absolutely. Like, no, I agree with you. I think there's a point where like like we talked about this on our unconditional love episode and probably in other episodes before, that our parents loved us in their own unconditional love way. And they still do, because like our parents are still alive. But like I full-heartedly agree with you. Like there was probably like a moment where they realized, oh, you're becoming your own person. What's that about? Because me and my father had a disagreement about that, and it just wasn't the best time.
Right. It's hard. It's so difficult. Like I truly think that it's possible to like learn to transform yourself and your environment as best as possible, because it's such a hard thing, right? Like because then once we moved from Rhode Island to like upper Westchester, New York, we my parents were still like, oh my God, you can't live in this apartment, you can't live here, like blah, blah, blah. Like you can't live in this town. Like it was like they were still like hovering over us. And we were literally married like a few months at this point, and it's like, why are you saying this to me? But like I still took their word, and like I just wanted them to love me and like give me the approval again, like I've always thought. And like once we moved in that apartment, we realized it wasn't for us, and luckily we moved before the pandemic. We moved to Connecticut, and now we live just over the border from New York. And so I've always identified as a New Englander, which is great. But like all in all, like I love finding my own like I'm still a state and a bit of a drive away from family, or a flight, or wherever I have to go if they're in one location or another. I still like love, like in these past 6 years that we've lived in Connecticut, I literally just love how far I've come like in my own journey, because in 2020 I was turning 25, and like I had no idea that the pandemic would hit and that everything would shut down, and we wouldn't be able to explore this area for a long time.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, in the past like 2 years or so, we've been able to branch out and meet people and do social events and things like that. Like I feel like we have a community, and it's all by my own, and me and my husband's our own doing. Like it's not because of like where we went to school or what we did or whatever. Like it's like people who have moved here, and like we find community in our area, and it's just so nice, because that's been healing in and of itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I can think of a couple of friends that I've lost touch with over the years that I've reconnected with. Like there's one girl, I went to school in Kentucky for a little bit, and she was my first friend that I met when I went to school in Kentucky. And her family was so like open to like, oh, okay, well, anytime that you like don't want to spend like the weekend on campus, you can come home with her and do this or do that. So like I would go home with her some weekends and just stay at her grandma's house and hang out with her grandma. They taught me Phase 10, and it was just like a really good time. And me and her like lost touch because I only went to school there for like 2 semesters, maybe 3. And then I did the Disney college program and was like, I want to be closer to home. So I wound up switching to a school that was like 3 hours from my parents' house. Because I was at Walt Disney World doing the college program, and I was in the most magical place on earth, and I was homesick, and I was like, okay, I need to do something about this. So I decided to switch to a school that was closer to home. But the point that I'm making is that like we've reconnected like recently, and now like we don't talk like on like a regular basis, but like we'll talk like on occasion. Like I've mentioned this before, I like One Piece, and she's reading the manga. So like when she posted to her story, it's like, oh my God, you're reading the manga. And like so now like we're like talking about it, and she's like, can I talk to you about it? I'm like, yeah, I'm ahead of you, so you can message me like whenever you like have like something you want to discuss, and like she'll do that. But we're also starting to talk about like deeper things. Like we text on Snapchat, and like we have like a streak going, and it's literally just me sending her a picture of Sally and her sending me a picture of her dogs. But like hey, it's communication, and like we've had like also deep conversations as well. But her family was really supportive of me when I was like living in Kentucky. Like when I did the college program, I had a whole bunch of stuff that because originally I was gonna go back to school in Kentucky, and my dad didn't want to bring it all home. So her dad was like, "You can store it in our garage. That's fine." So they let us like store stuff there versus having to like get like a storage unit and all of that. So like you can find community just about like anywhere if you not necessarily know where to look, but like you just meet the right people.
Yeah, 100%. It's so important to have community and like do things in person. Like I know we're virtual as we do our podcast recordings, and we had our last episode where we did our recap of our time together. So go listen to that if you haven't yet. But like
I haven't even listened to it yet. I've only been through the recording, and I can't wait to re-listen to it because it was such a good
that's so sweet. It was such a good time. I mean, like the four of us, you know, having that sense of community in each other and everything. And now we have our group text and it's just so great. But
It's
what I
so
mean is,
fantastic. We're practicing the cat photos and just, you know, memes. And like the other day, you sent like a TikTok of like a Lord of the Rings thing. I asked my husband, like, did so and so send us to that? Like my friend that dressed up like Gandalf. And he's like, no, that was Leanna. I'm like, oh, Leanna said that? That's hysterical. And I went and watched it. And I was like, oh my God, this is something that he would have sent, but this is amazing.
yeah, oh my God, that guy is so funny. Because if anyone hasn't seen the context, it's like this guy that's like, I need away and storm the castle, and you can too. And he's just like so like
So like over the top, like if you're having a bad day, just remember what Gandalf said or whatever. It's hysterical.
yeah, it's so good. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
gonna pin the message now and I'll totally add it to the notes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I just saw
But I have
another
to
video
scroll a
that he
little bit
posted
because we actually
today.
have been talking a lot in this group chat. Okay, it's pinned.
Yay. He did another video where he talked about how Toph is the greatest earthbender in the world, like how she like was able to metal bend out of the cage, and I was like, oh my God, yes. So like he's such a meme. But yeah, it's
Such a good show. And TV shows also give you a sense of a safe environment. So I think like going back to what you said at the beginning of the episode, like if you're in like, I'm not saying escape to a fantasy world, but that's something that I did when I lived with my parents and like I didn't feel safe. I watched something that was safe. And I think that kind of like transitioned into my adult years where like my go-to rewatch shows are Gilmore Girls. I'm currently like not necessarily rewatching Friends, but I now am watching it. Like I'll put it on as like background noise when I'm building a Lego or background noise when I'm doing something for work. But like it'll catch my attention. It's like that kind of thing where I'm like, oh my God, I remember this episode or this or that. And like it gives you a sense of safety. And I like new shows, but that's a really interesting way to think about environment where like if you don't have a safe space, first off, contact somebody. And if it's your parents, like you could always try having a conversation with them. And if you don't feel safe doing that, like as far as like how to set a boundary or anything like that, we have an all things boundary episode. What?
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah, I love that you say that there's ways to like escape in your space
Your
as much
reality.
as possible. Yeah, in your reality. Exactly. Yeah, it's so important because I found Gilmore Girls too when I was healing. Like my best friend slash maid of honor, she showed me that show and was like, you need to watch this. And we were so into it, and it was just so great because like
I love that so much.
yeah, it was
So
like a
much.
comfort. I'd come home from a long day at work, and I'd just turn that on, and that would be my way to decompress. And like,
Mhm.
because like I said, for a long time I lived by myself, and I just made sure I could, I never felt lonely, which was
Yeah.
good. Because I always had like shows and media to consume and all that. Like I was happy most of the
Yeah.
time.
I think when I was a kid, for me, it was like Disney movies. Like I remember watching like Pocahontas or Mulan and like acting it out. Like when she's on top of like the cliff, like I'd be standing on top of the couch, like doing this. And like I would not jump, but like I would like pretend and like make sure I do it in a safe manner. So that way, like I like wouldn't like fall or hurt myself. And like that was also my escape. I think theater is also a really good sense of like an environment of like I feel like environment and community kind of go hand in hand.
Mm.
But for me, when it comes to my environment, if it's not organized or clean or this or that, like there'll be times where like I'm too tired to do this or I'm too tired to do that. But as I mentioned before, we're back to having 3 people living in this house, so it's gotten way easier to like keep up with all the chores and stuff, and it's just really nice that we all want to contribute to that. But like I I don't I like organized chaos if it's if I know where the things are. Like my desk at work is usually a complete disaster, but I know where everything is. Whereas like in my home, everything has like a place, and like resets are like, you know, where like I like make sure I fold the blanket on the couch in the living room. Like I don't do that every night, but like at least once a week where like you sweep and just make sure your environment looks like clean. Cause they have said that like if your environment isn't clean, it can make you mentally foggy.
Oh, that's important to know and acknowledge because like I I you know, do the same kind of thing. I try to reset the house like every day, or every night before bed, like, or when I'm done using a room, like I reset the couch, like it's the same kind of thing. Like,
Good for
and
you doing it every day. I don't have the energy to do it every day, like maybe every couple of days. But like for the most part, like I try my best. Like for instance, I'll give you an example. I've talked about this before on the podcast. The room that I'm recording in, for those of you who don't know, is the first room when you first enter my home. And it's considered the awkward room. When we first moved in, it's where like the dining room table is. And my dad made a comment and it just like has stuck. But like I've never enjoyed hanging out in this room. And when you were here, you and your husband, we hung out in this room most of the time. It's sort of like we like would where we sat and talk. It's where we ate breakfast and a whole bunch of stuff. So like now this room is more inviting, and we're still not even done with it because like once we're done organizing the garage, there's some furniture we're going to put out there and all of that. But like it's just very important to make rooms in your house that feel like cluttery or like places you don't really want to like hang out in. Make it more like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but basically just make it more homey so that way you'll want to hang out in there.
yeah, totally, totally. I for a long time I had like really bad car anxiety as a passenger, and I'm
Mm.
still not perfect, you know. But it's gotten better with EMDR therapy and things that I've done to just like make the car space feel more zen, or if I sit in the back seat and I'm not as aware of like what the driver is doing, like that sometimes helps. It also depends on who's driving, to be honest. But
Feel that.
well, yeah, like all in all, I take good care of our car, and I kept crystals in the car because like I want to protect the energy of the car and things like that. And for a while I had like this car hanging thing off the window, or the rear mirror, I mean.
Yeah.
Um and then I had these car seat covers in the back and front and passenger seat, like those were like very zen. And then randomly, when I like want to do something, I always, when I set my mind to something, it's like it's I'm so black and white with it sometimes,
Yeah.
because like I needed the car to be like clean.
Homey.
So I was like, yeah, well, homey, but also like reset and clean again, because I was
Yeah.
like, all right, you know what? We're gonna like kind of detail the car and just like take a portable vacuum outside and just like take care of it. And I'm like, we're gonna take off the old covers and just have like a clean car again. And I'm like, because I feel like I'm better now, that I have done a lot of work and like have less anxiety and stuff, because I just don't need to like have certain things like cloud my space and my view, you know?
Absolutely. Like something that I did 2 or 3 summers ago, I bought like covers for my car. So I'm that person that names her vehicles. So my car is Luna, and it has like it's got like a sunflower theme, and our truck is Zoe after Zoe from K-pop Demon Hunters. Luna is after Luna from Harry Potter. But
Mhm.
anyways, like just making your car even like feel like a place you want to go. I mentioned them before on the podcast before. I've mentioned them before on the podcast, but I didn't remember their name. But it's like Brooklyn and Bailey. They're twins. I think they're like 25 or 26. I don't recall how old they are, but they are really good about like romanticizing their daily lives. And I think I linked them in the show notes for the episode that I mentioned them in, but I'll link them again and I'll try to find the video because one of them like romanticized like her car and like has like a cover for the top where like the sunroof has like a thing to kind of make it look like rainbowy and stuff. And it's just so pretty doing like simple things like that to your environment. Like I eventually want to repaint the kitchen, and something that I want to do is I want to get something like that and put it in like so like our particular cabinet is like a frame and it's got like, you know, what would be like the glass part of the frame. I want to put over that like a decal and make the kitchen look like art, you know.
That'd be beautiful. Yeah, I mean, speaking of art and being creative and things, I recently decorated my new phone case. I put, for those who aren't watching, I have, and I've talked about this before, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, which I'm obsessed with.
I
And
love that you mention the full name of the phone. You say it like every time, and I've like never said it to you before. I'm like, she always mentions the full name of the phone, and I
yeah, well, because I love it, and it just became my 1 year anniversary with it. So I was like, ooh, let's celebrate. So I got a new case because like my other case
I
broke.
love that so much. It was my 1 year anniversary on my phone, so I had to like bedazzle her up.
I got all these little star stickers from Etsy. They're like little vinyl, sparkly silver rainbow stickers. And I also got a mermaid tail sticker that has all these gemstones on it that are aqua and purple, which are my favorite colors. And then this like silver teardrop crystal that I just put on. So I'm like, you know what? This is great because they didn't make this case a very pretty color necessarily. It's kind of just like a dark blue gray color. And my phone is blue. So I'm like, oh, my phone's like covered, but like I made it pretty. So I'm like, you know what? This works for now. Like it's a protective
And then
case.
there's my phone that I have paint, literally paint on my phone. And it's even like in the puppet, okay? And I remember texting my husband, like, I got paint on my phone. It goes, that means you're a real artist now.
Oh, it's the initiation.
Yeah.
Cute. Oh, that's so great. I mean, there's so much to be said about healing within our environment. And I feel like we've touched upon a lot of it, you know, in terms of like our community, our making our home space our more homey, the devices that we use every day, like our workspace. Like there's so much to be said about making things homey. Like even tonight, like I've had this amazing candle on for the first time because I just got it. And shout out to Mary for putting this on her Instagram story and talking about it. It's called Storm. It doesn't, what's even the brand? I don't even know. But she said it's like the last one in existence. Oh, sensationalproducts.com or sensational-products.com specifically. So yeah, I love it because it's like this, it says a refreshing tropical storm containing tangerine, blackberry, and guava, finished with sugarcane and a grassy breeze. Like, it just smells so like
smell like there's a grassy breeze, Leanna.
Yes, and it's making me feel like more invigorated and happy because like as I was gonna sit down to record with you, Michelle, today, I was like, oh, I'm tired, I don't know. And like I was definitely we were definitely still gonna record, but I was like, how am I feeling with my energy and stuff? And I decided to light this candle. I'm like, you know what? I feel pretty good.
I love that so much. But like, yeah, I agree. We have touched on the physical environment, but I also think mental environment is just as important. Like if you have an intrusive thought, like I talk to it like it's a 5-year-old now. I'm like, or like I'll just tell it automatically to shut up. And I remember a time where it would talk back and I would literally have an argument with it, and sometimes it would win and sometimes it wouldn't win. And now I don't even remember the last time my intrusive thoughts won. Besides like the silly ones, like my husband mentioned, you have to let the silly intrusive thoughts win sometimes, like lick his nose or bite his nose or lick her face or whatever, what have you. Because if you let those silly intrusive thoughts win, then you like you can have control over it, because like then when like a bad intrusive thought pops up, you'd be like, whoa, brain, that you just went too far. We're not doing that.
That's so real. And I have bad intrusive thoughts sometimes, a lot, when I'm like more stressed or like whatever, and there'll be something really dramatic and I'm like, I have to like shake it off, like physically like shake it off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like that's not what I'm doing here. Like that's not who I am. That's not what's happening. It's not the truth. So yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I sometimes have my husband makes the joke that my subconscious makes up a version of him that's an a-hole. Because like sometimes I'll have dreams and I'll wake up and like, babe, I had a dream that you were like cheating on me, but like you like didn't care when I confronted you about it, and this and that. And he goes, like, first of all, I would never do that. And second of all, why does your subconscious make me out to be an asshole? And it's like, I don't know. It just happens sometimes. But like as I mentioned on a couple episodes ago, like I'm at the point now where like even my like you have like several voices in your head. One of my voices is sometimes my husband, where like I like if I can't get a hold of him or whatever, where like I'm like, okay, what would Bay do?
Nice. Yeah, that's so true and so comforting to know that like your person is always there for you in your environment, even if it's in your mental space. Like they can always help you and support you, and when you're in a healthy relationship, like that's where the unconditional love comes from, and it's just so beautiful.
Absolutely. I love that so much.
Yeah, awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add, Michelle?
Not really. No, I think that was perfect.
Cool. Sounds good. All right then, everyone, we appreciate you as always, and if you need
We'll
support,
talk to you soon.
if you need support on your journey, feel free to reach out to us via Instagram or TikTok, and send us a message. We'll be there for you. We can give you more advice, and if you like this topic, even let us know in the comments on Spotify, or with a rating or whatever. Like, we'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much.
And we'll talk soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of All Things Mental.
Please follow us on social media at All Things Mental Podcast to let us know how this episode helped you on your healing journey.
Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss an episode.
And remember,
you are not broken.
you're just becoming a more beautiful version
of your higher self.